All right. Very good. So we're going to get started. I'm just going to ask you guys some questions in English, and I'm going to ask you to post your responses, and then I will correct them if there are any errors, okay? All right. So my first question for everyone this evening is, what are you doing? Go ahead and post your answers in the chat. What are you doing right now? Come on, guys. I don't see any answers yet. What are you doing right now? Post your answers in the chat. Okay, so Monica said, yes, teacher, I'm sitting down. Okay, very good. Any other answers? What are you doing? Carvins, Reginald, Samis, what are you doing? I'm watching TV. Very good. Samis said, I am following. So awesome. I'm glad you guys saw that you should use the present continuous to express what you're doing right now. Okay, so very good responses. Next, I have a situation for you. Kervin says, I'm sitting on the couch following the live. Excellent. Okay, good. Situation, you bought a pair of shoes from the store and they do not fit. So you go back to the store to return the shoes. What do you say to the store clerk? What do you say to the store attendant? Post your answers in the chat. So again, you bought a pair of shoes and they do not fit. So you need to return them. You go to the store and you're speaking to the store clerk or the attendant. What do you say to that person in English? Please post your answers in the chat. All right. So Mayu said, I was watching TV. I left to watch your live broadcast. Very good. Very good. So after TV, you would need a period because at the end of each sentence, we must put periods in English. So I was watching TV, period. I left to watch your live broadcast, period. Okay. So does anybody have an answer for my question? You bought a pair of shoes, they do not fit, and you wish to return them. What do you say to the person at the store? Walno said, I'm relaxed in my house because I see raining. So, Walno, you would need to say, I'm relaxing in my house, right? Whenever you're asked, what are you doing? You respond in the present progressive. I'm watching TV. I'm relaxing in my house. I'm listening to the radio. Okay. But thank you so much for trying. To the question, Sami said, I don't think I should return these because they don't fit. You absolutely can. The question is, if you're going to return them, what do you say to the person at the store? What expression would you use? I need to return the shoes. What would you say? Come on, guys. This is your opportunity to practice on a Sunday. What would you say at the store? Hello, Getchni. Welcome. All right. So, in the interest of time, if you go to the store, you would say, I would like to return these shoes. Okay. And Carvin says, hello, I'm here to return a pair of shoes I bought here yesterday because they don't fit me. Very good. Okay. So, I would like to return the shoes, or I'd like to return the shoes. Okay. Next question. What is the difference between worse and worst? What is the difference between worse and worst? Please post your answers in the chat. The difference between worst and worse. All right, so Reginald said, I returned that shoes because I don't like. Okay, I don't like them, right? But when you go to the store, you would need to say, hello, I'm here to return these shoes because they don't fit or because I don't like them. Or I would like to return these shoes because I don't like them. Okay, but very good. Thank you all for trying. And the question remains, what is the difference between worse and worst? Anybody? All right. So Sami says the word worse is the adjective, whereas worst is the comparative form of worse. Very good. So both are comparative. I'm sorry, both are adjectives, but one is the comparative form and the other is the superlative form. Okay. So, for example, if I have two pens, right, this one and another one, I could say this pen is worse than the other. WORSE. Hello, Bianca. Welcome. This pen is worse than the other one. But if I'm talking about three pens, four pens, five pens, multiple pens, then I would say worst. So we use worse when we're talking about two nouns, and we use worst when we're talking about more than two nouns, right? Comparatives versus superlatives. Okay. All right. Now we're going to answer questions about how much versus how many. Okay. The first question is blank time do you have? Would you use how much or how many? Please put your answers in the chat. Hello, Mardoche. I see a lot of the students from Park Vista. Welcome, welcome. How much or how many? All right, so Sami says, how much time do you have? Any other answers? And Gechny says, worse is used to compare two things, while worst is used to compare more than two things. That is absolutely correct. Okay. Hello, Jocelyn. So, how much time do you have? Much is used for uncountables, right? How much time? How much water? But we use many for things that we can count. Okay. So the next question is talking about minutes. And the question says, blank minutes do we have left? How much or how many? What would the answer be? How much minutes or how many minutes do we have left? All right, so Sami says how many? Anybody else? Mardoche says how many? All right, anybody else? Maria Moncada says how many? Jermine says how many? Okay, very good. So we can count the minutes. We can count minutes, and therefore we say how many minutes do we have, right? But time is limitless. We cannot count time, so we would say how much time, okay? The next question is talking about juice. So blank juice would you like? Would you say how much juice or would you say how many juice? Getchny says how many. Sami says how much. Any other answers? Jocelyn says how much. Maria says how much. All right. The answer is how much because you cannot count juice, right? Juice is like a mass. You can't count juice, but you can count bottles of juice. So we would say how much juice, but how many bottles of juice. Okay, so we use much with the things we cannot count. You can't count water, you can't count juice, you cannot count time. But we use many with the things we can count, like bottles and pens and people, right? Okay, next question. Okay, Jocelyn, I see you. That's okay. The next question says, which of the following words would need capital letters? Okay, as you know, English is a little bit different from Spanish or French because in English we capitalize in many, many instances. Okay, so the words are John, computer, bike, and Spanish. Which of those words would require capital letters? Again, we have John, computer, bike, and Spanish. John, computer, bike, and Spanish. Which of those words would require capital letters? So Mardoche says John, Spanish. Maria says Spanish. Anybody else? Okay, Sami says John and Spanish should be capitalized. Carvin says John and Spanish. All right, very good. The answer is John and Spanish. Okay, and in English, we typically spell John John. Okay, so yes, John, names of people need to have capital letters. So if you're talking about John or you're talking about Maria, you're talking about Lucy, you need to write their names using capital letters. And it doesn't matter if the name is at the start of the sentence or in the middle of the sentence, you are going to apply capital letters, okay? And then for languages also, all languages in English should be written using capital letters. Okay. So Spanish, French, Italian, Portuguese, all of them capital letters. Other instances in which we use capital letters are when we're writing the days of the week, the months of the year, the names of cities, states, countries. You always need to write those using capital letters. Okay. All right. Next question. We have Italy, we have Jamaica, we have cat, and we have school. Which of those words would need capital letters? Italy, Jamaica, cat, and school. Please post your answers in the chat. The words are Italy, Jamaica, cat, and school. Which of those words would require capital letters in English? All right, so Sami says Italy and Jamaica. Mardoche, same thing. Bianca, same thing. And Maria, same thing. Very good. Okay, so cat and school are what we call common nouns in English. They're common, they're ordinary, they're just regular words, right? And as I look in this room, I see light, I see whiteboard, I see sofa behind me, glasses. Those are common nouns. They do not require capital letters, only if they are at the start of a sentence, okay? But Italy, Jamaica, country, cities, languages, days of the week, months of the year, it doesn't matter where they are in the sentence, we always write them using a capital letter. Okay. All right, very good. Next question. What is the weather like where you are at this moment? What is the weather like where you are? Please post your answers in the chat. Well, no, your answer is very late. Yes, we discussed how much and how many before. Hello, Gislond. Welcome. We're talking about the weather, okay? So please put in the chat what the weather is like where you are at this moment. Okay, so Sami says it's cool. All right, very good. Maria says it's raining. Yes, and Maria is where I am. So yes, it is raining. I can confirm that. Anybody else? Kervin says it's raining. Anybody else? All right. So when we're talking about the weather, we can say it's sunny, it's raining, it's windy. Bianca says it's raining too, yes. And I actually appreciate the rain because in the summer it was just way too hot. So I appreciate the rain, okay? Jermine says it's raining, yes. Okay. In other parts of the world, it's snowing, right? Now, thankfully, Florida does not get snow, but there are places in which it's cold right now or it's snowing. Okay, so those are some expressions we use to talk about the weather. Okay, next question. What is a synonym for the word immediately? What is a synonym for immediately? When you're learning English, it's very important that you learn synonyms, words that are similar in meaning, right? So instead of saying small, we can say little. Instead of saying big, we can say large. So, what is a synonym for immediately? Now, okay. Right now is more accurate, okay? So a synonym for immediately is right now or right away is another way, okay? So you can either say, please call me immediately or please call me right away. Please call me right now. Those are all the same. And in this case, Bianca, yes, you can say now. Please call me now. Okay. So those are some synonyms for immediately. Now, here's a question that it might sound simple, but there are many people who don't know how to spell this word. And yes, Yolji, we also say at once. Very good. Yes, please call me at once. Okay. So this question is, how do you spell the word English? I see many students when they're writing, they write all kinds of things. How do we truly spell the word English? And my name is in the chat, so it's going to be easy. Yes, Maria. English is spelled with an E, never an I. Okay? So sometimes when students write notes to me, oh, thank you for teaching me English. I see the English being spelled with an I, and I'm like, okay. So, yes, I'm happy that you guys all know how to spell English. Very good. And because it's a language, it should always have a capital E. Okay. Now, here's a word that is problematic. How do you spell the word responsibility? Don't use Google. Don't ask anybody. Do it yourself. How do you spell the word responsibility? All right. So I see three answers. And only one is correct. Okay, anybody else? How do you spell the word responsibility? All right, I see a lot of answers. Responsibility is spelled Responsibility. Responsibility. So even though people pronounce it and they say responsibility, it's actually responsibility with an I. Okay. So that's one of the words that give us problems when we're spelling it. Okay. So next question. What is the plural of the word child? What is the plural of child? What is the plural of child? Kervin says children, Samis children, Bianca children, Maria children. Very good. Okay. Mardoche, children's does not exist. Okay. Child is the singular, children is the plural. Okay. So the only time you can say children's is if there's an apostrophe. For example, the children's pet. If you're talking about a cat that belongs to multiple children, you can say the children's pet is called Toby, right? So the only time we can say children's is when there's an apostrophe after the N to show possession or ownership. But child is singular. For example, someone can say, I have one child, and children is plural. I have two children, but never children's with an S. Okay. All right. Next question. What is the plural of tooth? I almost gave you the answer. What is the plural of tooth? Kervin says teeth. Maria says teeth. Mm-hmm. Teeth. Okay. Very good. Teeth. Yes. So one tooth, but multiple teeth. Okay. So you can say, my teeth are hurting me. Or if it's just one, my tooth is hurting me. Singular, tooth, plural, teeth. Okay. Good job. All right. So here's a question that requires reflection, okay? And I want you guys to answer using a complete sentence. The question says, how much time did you spend studying English today? Respond using a complete sentence. How much time did you spend studying English today? Okay, I see answers popping in. For the previous questions, yes, those are correct. How much time did you spend studying English today? Please respond using a complete sentence. So Kervin says, I spent 30 minutes to study English today. Almost perfect. Remember that the question says, how much time did you spend studying English today? All right. Sami says, I spent 2 hours studying English. That's absolutely perfect. Bianca says, I spend 2 hours per day. Okay. So because you're talking about your routine, you use the present tense. I spend 2 hours per day. That's correct. All right. Maria says, I'm studying English right now with you. Very good. Remember that there has to be an apostrophe in I'm because it's a contraction. So I apostrophe M. Okay. I'm studying English right now with you. Okay. All right. Very good. Next, I'm going to read a passage to you, and then I'm going to ask you some questions. This is going to test your listening abilities, okay? So I'm going to read a passage in English. Please listen carefully. And then I will ask you some questions and ask you to post your answers in the chat. Okay? All right. So it says Marie has two children, one niece and one nephew. She lives in Portugal, but would like to move to Italy. She studied English in Spain and went to live in France for 1 year to learn French. I'm going to read it again. Marie has two children, one niece, and one nephew. She lives in Portugal, but would like to move to Italy. She studied English in Spain and went to live in France for 1 year to learn French. First question: how many children were mentioned in the reading? Complete answer. So don't just tell me 5 or 6. Tell me in a complete sentence how many children were mentioned in the reading. Remember, complete sentence. All right, so Marie has two children. Two children. Okay, very good. So two children were mentioned in the passage or in the reading. All right. Kervin says they are too many children. Since when? Two children is just right. Okay. The next question says, where does Marie live? Can you remember? Where does Marie live? Mardoche says, two children is me. Do you mean I have two children? She mentioned two children. Good. Next question, where does Marie live? I mentioned various countries in the reading, right? Mardoche says Italy. Remember, complete sentences. She lived at Portugal. There are two children. Guys, remember, check your writing before you post it, okay? Your sentences need to be correct. All right? Where does Marie live? Okay. So I'm going to read the passage one more time and then you can confirm your answers. Marie has two children, one niece and a nephew. She lives in Portugal but would like to move to Italy. She studied English in Spain and went to live in France for 1 year to learn French. So, where does Marie live? She lives in Portugal. Portugal. And because Portugal is a country, we would need to make sure that the P is a capital P. All right. Very good. So when you're writing your sentences, make sure you start with a capital letter and that when the sentence ends, you put a period. Okay. So no, she doesn't live in Italy. She lives in Portugal. All right. So, the last thing we're going to do today is a little bit of grammar with the past tense, okay? I'm going to ask you the past tense of some irregular verbs and ask you to put them in the chat, okay? All right. What is the past tense of the verb bring? What is the past tense of bring? Okay, Kervin says brought, brought. Antoine says, if I don't do the homework, can I not enter the class? This is not a formal class, so you can always enter. And yes, very good. The past tense of bring is brought. Okay. So I could say, my mother brought me some soup, or my dad brought me a basket of flowers, or something like that. All subjects use the same form in the past tense. I brought, my mother brought, my cousin brought, the children brought, everybody brought. Okay, very good. What is the past tense of the verb be, to be? What is the past tense? Was, is it only was, Carvins? All right, I'm seeing some correct answers. Was and were. Very good. The past tense of to be has two forms in the past tense, was and were. Okay, so I've put the conjugation in the chat. I was, you were, he was, she was, it was, you all were, and they were. Okay. So if I'm talking about my sister, because my sister is she, then I would say my sister was here last night. Okay. Because he or she or it, they all use the form was. Okay. So, question to you guys, if I say Maria, and Tony, would I say was or were? Maria and Tony was or were? Okay, Kervin says were. Maria says were. Samis were. Okay, very good. Because we're talking about two people, Maria and Tony, and they could be replaced with the pronoun they. So because it's plural, then we say they were. Maria and Tony were. Okay. If I'm talking about the pen, would I say the pen was or were? Okay, Kervin says was, very good, was. Okay, the pen was in my bag or something like that. Okay, all right. So thank you guys for joining. I'm gonna try to do this every Sunday, and it's gonna get more difficult each time. Okay, so please join me on Sundays at 7 o'clock so we can do a little bit of practice with our English. Okay, thank you all, and bye bye for now. Okay. You are very welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. Have a good evening. All right. Yes. See some of you tomorrow at Park Vista. You're very welcome, guys. Have a good evening. I'll end it now.